All right, and we should be live.
Oh, okay.
All right. Hope everybody had a good Christmas. Hopefully everybody will have a happy new year. I expect 2021 will probably be better than 2020. I'm hoping so.
Yeah, we can expect.
We hope to.
Yeah, it was a okay week for me this past week. You know, with the Christmas holidays, spent some time with the family and didn't do much as far as the channel, as far as content. Took a couple days to spend time with the family. We actually did get together, because we couldn't really get together a month ago here for Thanksgiving, which is a big U.S. holiday. Typically, families get together, and we couldn't get together for that. But we were able to get together for Christmas and exchange gifts, and went hunting a couple of times here in the last couple of weeks, which is something I haven't done a lot of, because this time of year, hunting season, deer hunting season especially, typically is the biggest work season of the retail season when I was working in retail. So I haven't actually had a chance to really do any hunting in years. So it was nice to, just walk out into the woods and, sit in a deer stand and freeze my butt off for a couple of hours, a couple of days this past month. So what should we get into first? Joshua, you wanted to talk about either CentOS or Windows today, I believe.
Well, I've got to plug the wonderful glory of Windows. It is definitely the operating system that everybody should be using, right?
Now, which version?
The latest and greatest, Windows 10. It turns out that last time you guys saw me, my version of Windows was out of date, and I had to update it. And then I had to do this archaic thing of restarting my computer to apply the updates. It was very weird.
I can explain why that happens. You have to restart Windows
Oh, yeah.
compared to Linux. It's how their file system works. Because Windows has a bunch of protections against writing, which is only thing I actually agree about Windows compared to Linux. That the protections, write protections when file is open, are so harsh compared to Linux, where if a file is open, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yes, and I've ran into multiple various other issues with my Windows installation. So this month, I'm no longer the Windows shill. I am the guy that desperately hates my Windows installation, and is probably going to be reinstalling Linux after we get done with this conversation. Because turns out that Windows does not like it when you put the computer to a hibernated state for over 2 weeks. Yeah, it does not appreciate that. It doesn't even seem to appreciate it overnight most nights, because I go to turn on my computer. Next thing I know, I have no audio. And then, okay, so we reboot the computer. Audio works on the desktop, but now it's not working my own OBS capture. And I'm like, okay, so what's going on here?
Wow.
And,
did Windows adopt Pulse Audio? What's going on there?
I think Windows has adopted an alpha build of Pipewire.
Oh. It's basically Fedora then, huh?
Yeah, basically. But Fedora's on beta, not alpha.
I haven't had that problem crop up yet.
I can't comment on how great the Windows file system is. Are they still using NTFS?
NTFS is crap, but the way they handle writes is, sorry, but reality is better than Linux, because things happen when you write stuff, and having write protection on stuff that are already being read is better, because Linux that has to clutch them up, like for example lock files for apt and shit like that. Those are clutched together things. You just need to remove the lock file and you can do whatever you want with apt again.
That's a feature, not a bug, though.
That's definitely a bad thing.
There are no such things as bugs or errors. They're just unintended features.
Yeah.
Once people start using them, they're definitely features.
Are you guys excited about the new version of Pac-Man coming out soon? That's going to allow parallel downloading. for your Arch packages.
Pac-Man didn't have that already.
It doesn't.
No,
Oh,
So they're really excited about that. It's going to be like the biggest
Yay.
change in Arch ever.
if you have a good enough connection.
Well,
that is.
obviously you need internet.
I'm still waiting for somebody to actually come out with a bit-based with the bit protocol, which I don't know the actual name of it, but the BitTorrent protocol.
Yeah.
Just have a package manager that uses that. I'm still waiting for it. I don't expect it to actually ever happen and actually be a proper use for it, but I'm waiting for it.
I have one. It's not a package manager, but it's an updater for an operating system. Windows Update
Yes, that works.
does that. Windows Update does that, actually.
Oh, okay.
If you enable, you can, what normally that's just inside your network, so there is no security issues there. But you can, once you download it on one system, you can share that among all other systems.
You know, I think I actually saw that the other day when I was looking
Yeah.
through how to like make Windows Update better. Which, by the way, you cannot make Windows Update better.
I think you could, actually. I think you could write a tool that automatically takes people to distrowatch.com and you present them with the top 100 and you ask them to pick. And then from there, you update their system.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of DistroWatch, I'm gonna go over to DistroWatch and hit the random distribution button.
Yeah, don't do that. Because sometimes you get dead distributions.
But PISI, I guess I just call that pissy.
Yeah.
Like what?
Well,
It's based off of Pardis Linux. We're gonna download this, and this is gonna be the first distribution that we install. I don't know if it's a dead project or not.
usually it'll tell you whether it's active or not.
I
But
just got a message.
they have hundreds of them listed that are no longer active. So
But we're gonna download this distribution. Next time we talk, I will give you my review on it. I promise.
I haven't looked at the DistroWatch page hit rankings in a while. Is MX still on top? It looks like it is.
Yeah,
Probably.
unfortunately, it's in the
Yeah.
top. It's then Linux, Linux, then Manjaro, then Minds.
Yeah,
Then
it's
Pop.
Pop OS,
Yeah.
Ubuntu,
So
then Debian. Wow. And then Fedora.
It hasn't changed in the past year, so I haven't really looked at it.
I don't know. I always laugh at that list because there's so many. I mean, when you talk about server installs, so many millions and millions of Ubuntu and Debian servers out there, especially.
Yeah.
How is MX,
Yeah.
Manjaro, and Mint and Pop OS above
Yeah,
those
it's gonna be even
distributions?
more. Right now, when the CentOS is dying, it's going to be more Debian and Ubuntu.
Oh, now, yeah, because
Yeah.
that was my go-to. Anytime I spun up any kind of web server, the only distributions I would even consider were Debian, CentOS, or Ubuntu LTS, and now CentOS.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider that now.
Yeah, it's just Debian right now.
Yeah.
If you want to stick with
I-
something.
I'm
Really?
going to say that we should probably wait a bit before automatically banning CentOS from our list of server distros. Because
It's not about the CentOS, dude. It's about the mentality of the companies who is taking over the free and open source project. It doesn't matter. The Ubuntu is just another company like Red Hat.
Well-
I mean, they are great. They are good. There is no doubt about that. They are supporting the open source community. But whenever they took any part of the open source technologies, they just killed that in no time.
Well, the good thing is you have a great community server distribution out there, Debian. You
Yeah.
yeah,
obviously a corporation can always backtrack. Like with CentOS, people deployed that thing thinking they had 10 years of support, and obviously not. So,
Yeah, there's a problem with the Debian at the moment that many of like commercial companies like WHM, Plesk, or Plesk actually does support Ubuntu, not Debian itself. But WHM is one of the like biggest company for web hosting automation, and they have no support for Debian. They're just thinking to add Ubuntu and Debian by the next version, which is gonna be a lot around a year. So it just make no sense to whole industry. I see that there are some forks like Cloud Linux gonna fork CentOS and create their own operating system. But as far as I can tell, as a server administrator and software developer, in my opinion, CentOS is dead. It was dead when the Red Hat took it over. It was obvious to me they're gonna kill the project. But no, it's dead. I'm not gonna install CentOS on any server anymore.
Just remember that Debian will never truly die, because what will happen is that if the
Debian is king.
project
Debian,
ever
I'm
falls
running.
apart,
I mean, my whole
if Debian ever falls apart, there's going to be 1,700 forks of it, and everybody's just going to end up
There already is.
run off, do their own thing.
There's already 1,700 forks.
There's going to be more. There's going to be more.
Yeah, I mean,
All the Debian hardcore people they're going to fall into support of Devon and find out that those people are just cancer to work with because it's just a protest distro. So then they're going to fork Devon and then make their own, and they might call it something like Monkey Linux or whatever.
So so for everybody that is a fan of Dev1, Josh's comments are his own. They do not reflect the thoughts of DT in any way.
Yes, they do.
I have been in the IRC chat channel.
I'm gonna get hate mail.
And I will be honest. I do not ever want to go into the IRC chat channel for the Dev1 team again.
Well, to be honest, the Debian community, if you hang out in some of their support forums, are not the friend. I've made that comment publicly,
I'm on their
so
mailing list.
I will say it. The Debian forums, the Debian IRC, those are not the friendliest places. So the Dev1 people probably are just some of those people. They're just worse because they're also protest distro kind of people.
Yeah. Debian is not really a friendly OS.
Honestly, if Debian keeps going the state that it's going now, I really don't see it actually staying as a consistent distro in the next 10 years, just because of that.
Did you try the SID version, for example?
I have tried SID.
I don't know.
Don't try SID.
Yeah.
If you want the rolling release distro, just install Arch.
I've installed SID many times over the years, and I would agree if you want a rolling release distro, install a proper rolling release distro, because things like Arch and Gentoo are built to be rolling release distros. Don't go install Debian, which is all about that stable server version, and then go to their unstable branch and expect things to be great.
I mean, if you want a rolling release style of distro that preaches stability like Debian does, just install OpenSUSE.
Yeah, that would work. Tumbleweed.
There are some definition about the rolling release title and how an OS match your daily work. For me, Arch is really great. I mean, as a rolling release distro, but it is always behind the Debian in terms of package version.
Well, yeah.
As well as it just takes so long for anyone, even the pro one, to create a useful OS out of Arch. You have to configure this and that, install this and that. By the way, the Debian,
some people just hate themselves like that, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Debian for me as a developer and as a server administrator, the Debian for me is just the SID version. It's just install it and just get on with my life. Like, I developing the Python and Django every day, and it's always came with the latest version of Python out of the box. So I don't need to compile the Python myself and just hopping between the different version myself and stuff. It's just based on the use case. Of course, the Arch is the greatest in the rolling. There's no doubt about that.
Speaking of which, Eric in chat just posted something interesting, a rolling release server. If you want a rolling release server, CentOS stream.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm seeing more and more hosting providers actually offer Arch servers. You do see those out there.
Yeah,
I think DigitalOcean offered like Arch when they first came around, and I think Linode even did for like the first 6 weeks, and they quickly dropped Arch for some reason.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder why they dropped it.
Well, what Linode does is Linode uses a squid proxy to capture all the updates, and I think it had something to do with the fact that at the time Linode only had the one data center that they operated out of, and they were getting so many package updates from the various distributions. Because when Linode opened up, they had something like 50 plus distributions that they were offering, and I would imagine it has to have something to do with like the sheer aggressiveness of like the package of like the AUR and Arch repository package updates, because they cached everything.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm assuming.
That would make sense. It's probably rough on their bandwidth. Just people constantly updating their Arch servers.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the Arch video of DT a couple of weeks ago, and I tried to install the Arch on my laptop, and I mean, it I mean, with the i3 and the tilling window manager, I mean, I couldn't. I mean, I'm just doing the software development and server management for like 25 years by now, and it was rocket science for me, to go through all of these steps, just configuring the desktop OS. And of course, the result would be magnificent because you have your own version of everything for the desktop, for everything. But for me, just the OS is an essential part of what I do. I just want to install and just get over with my life, which is software development. So I'm not focused on my OS that much. As long as it's not Windows, I'm happy with it.
We all know that if you really want to hate yourself, just install Arch, completely forget to install Xorg, and just install Window Manager, and then try to figure out why it's not working. Because most window managers do not actually cite any errors if Xorg is missing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so complicated. Despite I have Debian installed on my desktop and laptop for like 5 years now.
Well, I've installed Arch enough times that I can pretty much go through the installation probably without even reading the wiki and get it up and running pretty quickly. But even that being said, most of the time, if I want a quick VM of Arch, I'm not going to install Arch. I'm going to install Manjaro or Arco. Or, I'm just going to.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Right.
I am very lazy with my Arch distributions. I literally have I literally have a disk image that I just flash onto my computer, and it's already installed Arch with the GNOME desktop. And every time I install it, the first thing I do is just pacman-syyu because I'm a savage.
Was that you mentioned the OpenSUSE?
I did.
Yeah, OpenSUSE. OpenSUSE is a great one, but let's divide the distros, these two, the CentOS and Red Hat and OpenSUSE, to different part of the planet, the Europe and United States.
Of course.
OpenSUSE is kind of more on like German side, Europe side, and the other one is just based on the US, and it just for me the OpenSUSE is really great. It's just working, but I'm always just being confused by all of this package manager, which basically do the same thing. All of this window manager.
You don't use the OpenSUSE package manager in the command line. You just use Yast.
Yeah, they asked. I mean,
Yast.
basically is. I mean, my first question always for me is that why there should be a Yast when there is an APT, why there should be the YUM when there is APT. I mean, they do the same thing.
Well,
if we combine all of this together, we would beat the Windows by now.
Didn't SUSE come before Debian?
No, believe not. But Yast exists for a very specific reason. Yast exists because it's a part of the overall control scheme for SUSE Enterprise, which allows you to actually do high-level control of the system for system administrators in the company. You can even have unintended installs and a lot of control, which are all handled by Yast. So packaging is just one aspect of Yast that most people just see just that aspect. But there
are way easier things to do that. I mean, if DT helped me, there are like even distros comes with the scripting. So as an administrator, you can just deploy like hundreds of Linux with the pre-built script in blink of eyes. I don't see why Yast should be exist.
When you're working with the enterprise, the efficiency of the distro really does not matter nearly as much as the support behind it.
Yeah.
The main reason why you don't see a lot of people talking about like the Debian controversies right now is simply because Red Hat and SUSE exist. That's really
Have you guys tried the enterprise OS like Red Hat and OpenSUSE enterprise version? I tried. I paid for it once.
I have paid for Red Hat in the past.
Yeah, I tried both of them, and what you say about the support, it's not there. I mean,
it's not that it's not the fact that it actually exists. It's the fact that it exists on paper, and that's what the financial penny ventures care about.
5 years ago, I was really happy with SUSE Red Hat support. It was really good. But the last year, I tried to find the support agent for my one of my server. It wasn't even gone through. I mean, this SUSE company just got over with like 8 different company over like 4 years. You have to just call different number and they just shoot you on the different number and different number again. You can't find and get a hold of anyone there. So
now, the way that you get support for SUSE is that you literally just get an email address for one of the developers.
Yeah. And
That's really the best way to do it.
Both of the companies, the Red Hat and SUSE, using the single team for handling all the support. There is no Red Hat and
That said, if you ever need assistance with ButterFS, you just go to the ButterFS Git repos. Get like half the email addresses there are all SUSE employees.
I got
So there you go.
support from the community of the OpenSUSE while I had enterprise SUSE on my servers. There was more support from the community than the paid one.
I'm still old school. Does anybody belong to mailing lists anymore? Because I'm just subscribed to the Arch mailing list. You guys do mailing lists too?
I'm on Debian. I'm on Ubuntu. I'm on OpenSUSE. I'm on most of them.
Yeah, same here.
I'm even on a kernel team. That's a mistake.
I know it's not modern. I know the kids probably would hate a mailing list, but I kind of like them.
I remember receiving package updates in letters in the mail.
Well, about support in the enterprise version of the software, the point is you have support on paper, so you have something to go back on if everything fails.
Yep.
That's why enterprises choose support operating systems that have some sort of support. I have had enough of exposure. That's why I know why people will choose Windows, not because it is a good operating system, because it has support for software, and most importantly, it has behind it a corporation, an enterprise, and it has behind it
there's one name and not 1,000.
Yeah,
that's what matters.
And
Did you actually try to call Microsoft for getting support?
I have called Microsoft for support recently. My Windows activation failed on me. I was on hold for about 4.5 hours.
Talking about the servers. Talking about the servers.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't know. I've never used Microsoft.
Well, I would expect Microsoft is now, a $1.5 trillion company. I would expect that you could get somebody on the phone instantly. I would hope.
Yeah, the point of having a server, I mean, I'm not talking about the client side. The client side, of course. I mean, there are like a bunch of people, answering the phone for you. For the server side, when things get really, serious about the problems you have with the server, which is every time is a critical problems. When you call Microsoft for getting help, all you get is that the maximum help they offer to you is just providing some articles or maybe watching your screen, because they are not allowed to touch anything on your server, basically. And it just, I mean, for me as a server administrator, I mean, I never got a real support from either Microsoft or any of these enterprise Linuxes. Although I get many support from the Amazon support team, it was much better than either of them. And even the open source project like CentOS or Debian, or even on the paid OS like Microsoft one, I got the best support, I mean, from them as a third-party company who is the cloud provider, the AWS team, compared to the actual software vendor, which is the Red Hat or Microsoft.
Well, it sounds like what you're trying to say is ultimately you have to support yourself. You can't really depend on these.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
just remember,
last-ditch measure, but for a company, they need they want that safety net. That's the reality situation. They want that safety net because.
And if we're talking about safety nets, we have to remember
for a safety net is nothing.
If we're talking about safety nets, we have to remember that lawyers are going to be cheaper than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I have this one server for almost 10 years ago, CentOS server. I'm not touching that server; it's just running. And I have this Microsoft server, which is constantly need a support, update, patch, reboot, and other stuff. So when it's come to the support, I think it's depend on how you want to implement your infrastructure. I mean, you can go with Microsoft, which of course you need the support because on every update they're gonna mess up with something, and then some driver and some patch and some changes which you don't want to, and you can stick with something that is work. So just in my opinion, paying for a support in any operating system, it's just paying for a lie of having someone on your side when something happens, which is not true. I had to recover many servers myself during the night and days of working, although it was a paid or commercial distro or operating system.
Well, so, as the people that actually know what.
Yeah.
As people that actually know know about the thing that the monitor, the keyboard, and the mouse are attached to, we care about that. But the people that don't even know how to properly use a keyboard to close a window,
Yeah,
don't.
that's good for them. That's
At
good
the end
for
of the
them.
day, at the end of the
There
day,
is no
you
doubt
are
about that.
beholden to those people. That's the reality of the situation. If you work in a company, if you work in a bigger company, those that would want a safety net, you are automatically beholden. You're automatically, even if you're the boss of the IT department, at the end of the day, your boss, the CEO, he probably doesn't even know what keyboard is, or if he knows how to use it to open email, and that's it. And for those people, they want that safety net, because reality is that money they're gonna spend for that safety net is nothing compared to what they could lose if they didn't have it. But at the end of the day, if shit hit the fan, and if they didn't have that support, they have that safety net, what would happen with the company? And then the company could stop existing, because everything is computers nowadays.
Oh,
So
you mean if there is no support, all the companies in the planet gonna stop? I mean,
no,
working.
that's what the people think. The people who actually control stuff like this. That's what they
Uh,
think.
I have an
Reality is
objection here. DT or other people just help me. You guys just open source guys. I don't see that DT gonna install any like Red Hat on his infrastructure in the home or office or you are guys. I mean, if you have, I have no objection. But I mean, DT
Red
here is
Hat
one
is
of the guy who actually knows the arch, all the
yeah,
way.
but at the end of the day,
And
even
if
me
someone
and DT
if someday
aren't the
Arch,
ones that control
let me
things.
finish my thing. If someday Arch open a company and ask for enterprise, support, are you gonna pay for them, DT? I don't think so.
Well, also, you guys that work in IT, the people that actually make the decisions as far as budget, do they
That's
know?
me.
Okay. Well, you probably know a little more than what most people making those decisions do, though, because there are some
Yeah.
people making those decisions that don't know anything about computers, or that's the other
Yeah.
Oh, I
thing.
have to say that. I'm the CEO and also the IT guy. So
Okay.
Yeah,
works for me.
you're lucky.
Yeah,
Most
you're an
most
exception.
companies,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
IT team is someone you need there, and if you could, you would trash them, because they at the end of the day they are there
That's the
just
whole
to
idea of being a clock and
yeah.
producing clock. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And but problem is those guys that think that IT teams are there to waste money and space. Those are the same guys who make the decisions, and
Yeah, of
they
course.
will rather pay for someone who will just be there, so it is there, and pay him
The
less,
computer off the clock
instead
computing.
of someone who is actually smart and doesn't need the safety net. But they will still pay for the safety net, because, well, that's why they think if something happens, we need it.
I don't know.
That's the
I mean,
reality.
the whole idea about the safety net and the computer security is just a thing for me, which is never exist. I mean, as a white hat hacker, just give me a lead on any server OS you wish, with all type of the protection you want to put on top of that, and I can give you whatever you want inside that server to you in 24 hours. So for me, the safety net, the server protection, it's just a myth. I mean, it's not
It isn't about server protection. It's about them trying to cover their back. It isn't about protection. It's about security. It's about if something happens, if something breaks, then they want to have a safety net. They want to have something to
There is no one
back
there.
to.
That's my point. There is no one
Yeah,
there.
But even if
but
there's
do
no
they
one
know
there,
that?
even if there's no
Do they
one
know
there, the
that?
person that made the decision to buy that support contract can say, "Well, hey, I paid for support. It may not be there, but that's not my problem."
Yeah.
Right?
yeah, that's how it
Yeah,
works.
you are the one gonna fix the problem for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just paying for someone to blame when something
Yeah.
breaks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I would
not
say
because
that's
you
that.
want you need
Oh,
the
it's not
support,
that the
it's someone- you
CIO
have
needs a
someone to
phone
blame.
number.
Yeah.
I'm seeing this in chat right now. The CIO doesn't need a phone number for somebody to call. The CIO knows who to call. He calls the IT department.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fix it. If you can't fix it, call them.
If you can't
and
fix
that's
it,
when
you're
they
fired.
stop.
He doesn't even give you the option
Yeah.
to call them. He says, "Fix this, get it running now."
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when his interaction with this stuff ends. fix it. And then you have options of calling, for example, Red Hat, because that's why your company pays them, or fixing it yourself. Of course, you're gonna fix it yourself, but the CEO doesn't really know what you're gonna do. He doesn't care. For him, when he
Yeah, I
puts
know
the
they don't care.
phone down,
I've been there. Believe me, I've been
interaction
there.
stops.
Believe me,
Everything
I've been there.
stops.
They don't really think and care about who's gonna fix this. They just want it to fix. But the problem is there when you just when you're sitting as an IT administrator in a department and someone calls you about something broken, and you have two options: wasting your time by calling a company like Red Hat and trying to find someone like after 2 hours on the phone, which is gonna at the end just sit on his desk and watch your screen and just say, I cannot touch anything on your server because it's against our policy.
Yeah.
Or just do it yourself and ask around the community, or search the Google or any search engine of you prefer to find a solution yourself. I mean, I
Yes,
tried it many
yes.
times. There's absolutely no actual support. The best support I got in my whole 35 years of being an IT guy, I mean, it was
Stack
from
Overflow.
AWS.
Stack Overflow is where you were going.
Yes, Stack Overflow, Google search, and an AWS team as a paid. There is absolutely no support from the Red Hat, from Microsoft,
Yes.
none of them.
Yes, but you know that, I know that, but
Yeah.
the CEO doesn't know it because he doesn't want to know it, because for him it doesn't
I
really
think
matter.
I think the CEOs are kind of smart people right now. I'm talking about the people who are investing lots of money in different market. For instance, in my company, I'm not going to name any company or any brand for myself in terms of advertisement. But in my company, I have my partner who is working in the printing industry, and he knows like not much about the computer, but his idea of about having which software, when, and how, it just overcome all I know about the business and computer altogether. So I don't see that the CEOs are dumb people, that much. Yes, when we're talking about the CEOs like in 10 years ago, they were so dumb. They just needed the email address to collaborate with their business partner. Right now, I know many CEOs that running different various software for communications, messaging, even using the AI or reporting and stuff. So they are not really that dumb. They know what they pay for and how to use it. I would say 10 years ago, yes, I would agree with you. Maybe in some parts of the world, that there are still some people, with same, you know, uh, thoughts about computer and IT, but the majority of the people and CEOs just so smart. I mean, you cannot say they don't know anything about the computer, or they just pay for, just paying for something.
Well, let's switch topics for a bit.
Sure.
So, because this will be the last chat we do here for this year, what were the biggest Linux stories of 2020? Now, I was struggling to come up with some of the biggest stories of the past year. Had CentOS not died this week, it would have been tough. Obviously, I think now that's probably the biggest Linux story of 2020. Does anybody else think? The only other thing I would mention is I did think Microsoft Edge coming to Linux, as much as I think that's kind of cringe, I did think that was kind of a big deal.
The porting of Microsoft Office to Linux.
Yeah.
There's that announcement. There's also the announcement of
DirectX.
What was that?
DirectX
Yeah.
for Windows.
Yeah.
What is the name of the thing? The Windows what?
I'm not 100% certain. I'm trying to.
WSL, something like that. Inside the Windows, the Linux inside the Windows.
WSL.
Yeah,
Yeah.
WSL.
Yeah. They're gonna release the DirectX for that one too.
Yeah, a lot of Linux stories this year, the bigger ones, it does seem to be dominated by Microsoft. Some of what they were doing, as weird as
Yeah.
that seems, yes.
Just
But the
remember,
Office one, I never heard that.
embrace, extend, extinguish.
No, not with Satya Nadella. I trust him.
Nah.
Look, I'm gonna say
Satya is
this.
the guy that came out and said that Microsoft loves Linux. We can't blame him for anything. He does everything right so far.
You know what? I
So
thought
far, he did well.
I thought
wanna say that.
GitHub handled the YouTube DL situation pretty okay. So I'll give Microsoft credit on that.
I think
Well,
GitHub was a little bit too
is-
aggressive there, actually.
Well, legally they've got to react to the
Legal-
notice
Oh,
initially.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have to do the immediate takedown with the DMCA. You
But
just give They could have just simply have given the YouTube DL team a notice of like, hey, there's this DMCA takedown. You have this many days to respond, otherwise we're going to take your project down.
No. Technically, they did the law correcting by removing it immediately, then working with the.
I mean, Microsoft has a team of lawyers sitting there.
Yeah.
You know, if the lawyers say, "Yeah, take it down," then they're going to take it down.
Reality is, if they didn't take it down in don't know how many days, they would be responsible for anything, even if it was actually copyright infringement.
And the problem was
GitHub would be responsible for everything, not.
But I thought
not
Section
UTDL.
230 protected GitHub from that.
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No, because only if they didn't receive a DMCA, and because they received DMCA takedown notice, if they didn't take it down and it was actually copyright infringement, it would not matter. GitHub would be responsible, as far as I am aware.
Yeah,
But
and probably too.
lawyer.
The person that filed the DMCA was the RIAA, the Recording Artists Industry Association of America. You know, that's a big deal. Like, you can't just, well, we're not going to take it down. You take it down first, and then you think about what you're going to do in response, right? You don't, because those guys have deep pockets. The recording industry, like if they wanted to get legal with Microsoft, they could, you know.
Yeah. But on the other hand, we should also remember that the guy who is CEO of GitHub he came to Microsoft through open source.
Yeah. You're talking about Nat Friedman.
Nat Friedman. He was actually one of the developers of GNOME 2.
Yeah. Originally, I think he was part of GNOME. Yep.
No, part of GNOME. Then he actually had a company with Michael De Casa, Xamarin, where they developed a tool set for writing iOS and Android applications with C#, and that was bought by Microsoft. That's how Microsoft actually got both of them.
Right.
And they were both fighting for, as far as I see, they both still have some open source, even before Microsoft started openly open source.
Right.
There was inkling of that, and there are many people in Microsoft who actually are supporters of open source. It's just that for the time, Microsoft was still heavily inundated in the whole philosophy that was set by Bill Gates, that code is intellectual property because it came from the mind, and that was his idea. It was his how he worked. And Steve Ballmer had somewhat of the same.
Steve Ballmer took it to an extreme.
Okay, he did take it to an extreme, but actually he said in an interview a couple of years ago, I believe, that for the time he still believes he was right. That
he has
Linux.
I've seen interviews of him where, he's backtracked a little bit. I think he regrets that Linux is cancer talk that he was.
I believe actually read that he was he wasn't actually directly targeting Linux, that he was more targeting GPL.
Yeah, he's talking about the licensing. Yeah,
that GPL is a cancer.
Yeah,
GPL is cancer. We can't be.
I mean, it's somewhat cancerous if you want to eventually have the option of profiting off of your software. It is possible, yes. But when you're the business and your business is software development, do you really want to release your product as the GPL?
No.
Your goal is to make a profit.
I can give you an example. I have a software which is for printing industry. It's online software. I'm gonna make it open source in the name of DT. And knowing him, the next year it's gonna be an open source project for everyone to use. And I didn't decide about the licensing itself yet, but it's not gonna be any kind of GPL, any kind. I mean, it's just a headache for me and anyone who wants to create a plugin or module or out of the software I developed. Although I'm not sure even how it's going to end up, but it's not going to be any kind of GPL. It's just a mess. I mean, the GPL is just make no sense to me as a whom
Well,
have that
even-
software developed, or the people who wants to develop on top of that software. It's just a mess.
Well, yeah, but like when you look at it, there are projects that do release paid for binaries. What's Ardor is audio
Open
editing
Source.
software. Yeah,
Open
that's
Source.
one of them.
Let's say OpenCard. OpenCard is the GPL.
Yeah,
So
OpenCard.
what do you think about the GPL? Then, I mean, as a developer, when you develop a module for OpenCard, you spend hours to work on the module. Then you want to sell it, and you know that although you are selling that as a customer who buy that module, I can ask you to deliver the whole code to me because it's my right as a part of the GPL. So I can actually copy your code and just have my own module.
Well, Steve Ballmer,
Yeah.
too, was right about if he was talking about the GPL being cancerous. The GNU project, actually, they don't describe the GPL as cancerous, but they do call it viral. They say it has a viral effect and that it spreads everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's kind of the point of the license is to have that effect. Yeah. Now,
I mean-
whether that's a positive or a negative, I mean, I guess that depends on the use case.
Well, like when you, my whole argument is that like your primary motivation if you're a company is to make a profit, because otherwise you're just not going to exist. That is the true end goal of any corporation, unless you're like one of those weird nonprofits, which I don't understand why you
You're talking to the one, yeah.
Yeah. So at that point of time, why would you use the GPL? It's better just to use an all rights reserved based license, or even just like Creative Commons, something that still gives you access to just closing your source code should you ever need that option.
I can answer that to you as a company owner who wants to actually do that. If I would in the position to release the software from my neck, the weight of the software, either I cannot handle the support, either I cannot develop that further, and I needed some support from the community and developer as free, okay, and I would still want to kind of own the license of the software, I would release it on the GPL.
Well, yeah, GPL, but you also have like all the other licenses, like the Apache license. I think the BSD license, which people
The
mistakenly
BSD is
call
really
the-
nice. The Apache
Yeah.
is kind of complicated for me. The MIT is really nice. I mean,
I mean,
would
the
say-
MIT is really just a BSD license.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
I
the
mean,
same
I would say-
license. Yeah, for the most part.
I would say I would go
MIT
BSD with my software.
Open the end.
And
That's what
we had a
MIT
question
likes.
here in the Jitsi chat. Magago was asking, why is the GPL considered cancerous? It's because when you license something under the GPL, it forever has to be GPL'd. It's always got to be
Yeah,
open.
it forever has to be
Everything's
GPL'd.
boundary.
Any portion of it has to be forever GPL'd. Like
Anyone
say,
develop anything for that is gonna be GPL.
say that. Let's just take Wayland for an example. Let's just say that you're creating a desktop environment, and like for some reason you can't get your window rendering right because Wayland's weird. So you just go to Gnome and you just copy their code.
Yeah.
Well, now your entire project has to be GPL.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It cannot change.
Or even more open like MIT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why companies like Microsoft and Apple, they don't want any GPL software on their operating systems, for example, because they're afraid that, that would affect other parts of their operating system, that they would then have to GPL that, and they would lose control of that software, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big thing with GPL is that it's very anti-open source initiative in all truth.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's completely free software versus open source, right? There's two different ideas, right?
Well,
It is
there's a lot
two
of
different
problems.
ideas, and honestly, I think it goes a little bit too far for even free software. Just almost, it's borderline, but it's almost there.
Yeah, well, the good thing
But
is,
there's really no real alternative to it
Yeah.
when it comes to that.
well, you do have the GPL version 2 versus GPL version 3, too. I mean, you
Yes,
have
version 2 is a lot better than version 3.
right. So you do have some flexibility in the licensing. For example,
I
the
think we
Linux
have
kernel
to
is never going to
yeah.
move to GPL 3. They're always going to stay on GPL 2. So.
Well, that and there's all kinds of logistics to updating
I mean, the
license on
person
the
who
Linux
uses
kernel.
the GPL have its own set of mind and policy. I mean, it's not the. I mean, in my opinion, whoever used the GPL is not really open source guy. He's just
Yeah.
looking for some freebies from the community. That's all.
They're looking for freebies and they're looking to share their freebies.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
all.
ultimately fine. If I was to have a preference, the underlying components of my operating system, my kernel, my GNU core utils, the alternatives to that, and all that stuff, I want that to be GPL. I really do. But stuff like my Office suite, I'm not so certain that like GPL is like the license that I as a developer would want to use.
I can see your point there. I would certainly like the fundamental parts of the operating system being GPL'd because
That's a good idea.
yeah, I can understand that because you want that to be open and as so much more community oriented than what some of the other licenses would allow.
Irony is, for example, Microsoft uses MIT license,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah,
even more open. It's basically do whatever you want with it.
Do whatever you want. It's just remember that this belongs to me. That's what the MIT license says.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the BSD guys do too. That's why you could take a BSD and close source it if you really wanted to and sell it as proprietary. The licensing allows for that, but you can't do that with the GPL. That's why you can't close source Linux.
No.
Well,
Right.
with GPL2, you can close source parts of it if you use them, but then you still have to bag the changes back to the original project.
Well, you also have to remember that not every single portion that ships with the Linux kernel on your traditional Linux installation is actually open source. There are parts of the kernel that come closed source.
Oh yeah, there's
That's why
proprietary
you want
blobs in it. Yeah,
GPL2.
yeah.
Because otherwise with GPL3 they wouldn't be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do have
I've
the
just
Linux
come-
Libre kernel, which removes all those proprietary bits.
Well, yes, but why would you subject yourself to that?
I've tried, and you have to have. If your hardware works with it, great. If your hardware doesn't, though,
If I enable that kernel, I have to install this video card, this network card.
if you have an NVIDIA card, don't even bother. Just
well,
stop now.
This is an NVIDIA card, but this is a 620 or something like that. It's a really old NVIDIA card. It works with the Linux Libre kernel.
Mhm.
I just can't use a newer one. In fact, NVIDIA doesn't even make a driver for this card anymore. It's so old.
I've just come across a search engine called SearchX.
Mhm.
I'll read you the blurb. SearchX is a free meta search engine available under the GNU General Public License version 3 with the aim of protecting the privacy of users. That would seem to me on the surface to be a good use case for GPL3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
SearchX has been around for a while. It's a good privacy-oriented search engine.
Here's my problem with search engines, because they are all fundamentally flawed. And the only one that does it right is, honestly speaking, Google. Now, hear me out on this.
We're going to let you speak. Go ahead.
So, say I want to find pictures of cats. How a search engine works is a search engine works off of an index. It's basically just like a Control F search of the internet. So it's going to find every single image of a cat and put it all in one place for you. That's how a search engine works. Let's just say that now you have a very specific issue. You just go to DuckDuckGo, put in like your error message, see what shows up. There's a fundamental difference between what DuckDuckGo shows and what Google shows.
It's about the page.
Yes, it's a lot of stuff. Google will actually show you Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
DuckDuckGo won't.
Well, is it a problem with the indexing or?
It's not necessarily an indexing. It's
about the age of the search engine too, and the way it's handling the indexing and how it's seeing the request you are putting there. So Google is really on top of everything.
I mean, if you're in an IT department, you already know that 90% of your solutions are going to be fixed with just a Google search. That's the god honest truth, because nobody is smart enough to really fix every single issue by themselves. There are very few people like that. I don't even think Linus himself could do that.
No, he couldn't. He even said that he doesn't know most of the kernel.
We're talking about a guy that gave up using Debian because Debian is hard.
Well, Richard Stallman says he's never installed GNU/Linux because it's too hard. He has other people install it for him.
Yeah.
It's getting back to me, a person like me. I mean, when I was saying that I'm using the Debian, all of you was laughing at me. So, I mean, the OS for me or for Linus or Richard Stallman, the OS is just the essential part of the computer. So we just, want to install and get on with our life. So,
Well,
I
I
mean,
know
I-
I know why Richard
can get
Stallman
behind that.
can install GNU/Linux is because he's trying to use one of those 100% free distros. And if he just installed it,
It's
so,
a, that's a journey. But if I wanted to take a moment to pivot to like something that I actually care about, which is defaults matter. So I know that there's a very large Arch Linux and Gen 2 community that watches your channel, Derek. So I know that this is not the very specific targeted audience. But
I think
Let's take-
defaults matter in things too. Matter of fact, one of the stories I talked about earlier this year was Emacs debating whether their defaults made sense. But yeah, continue on with your thought.
well, the idea so then this is somewhat on topic for like this year because we're celebrating the year of DistroTube. But so you install a Linux distribution. Let's just take Ubuntu for an example. Ubuntu uses the GNOME desktop environment by default. It's a very terrible theming process that they went for, and they basically ruined the glory that is GNOME. But that's a debate for another
Well,
time because we all know that Adwaita. Shut up, Adwaita is king. Adwaita is
crap.
king. Adwaita is GTK3.
That thing is horrible.
Yes, but anyway, let's take a moment. Let's open a window in our GNOME desktop environment. Okay, Windows open.
Okay.
We have
I think you and Big Pod will probably be the only ones that
No,
can
I
do
can't,
that.
I can't.
So
I can't.
yeah,
No,
but
I mean,
I'm on a
well,
better
I don't even
version
have
of
GNOME
it.
installed right now. Well, actually, I can just go grab the laptop because I've got
no, I have a none.
But anyway, let's open up a window on a default bare bones GNOME installation. You
Okay.
have a title bar with a close window. That's it.
Yeah.
There is no minimize. There is no maximize button.
You have it. You have a tweak.
Well, yeah,
It's
you can
pretty
install
installed.
tweaks, but defaults matter here. So, say
Talking
you
about
want
defaults.
Yeah.
Only the default. We're talking about that.
only the defaults.
Yeah.
Now-
It's annoying. It's annoying.
If you want to maximize the window, there's two ways you can do it. You can use the mouse to drag it to the top of the screen and it'll become maximized, or you can just hit super up.
Yeah, there's a
It's
keyboard
annoying. Yeah.
shortcut.
I know what to say. It's so annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, now that's fine. Now I'm using a Razer Ornata keyboard. It's honestly terrible, and I don't recommend anybody buy this keyboard because it's a fake mechanical keyboard. But super up is like a good 16 inches because I'm a savage US guy. That's not very conducive to like hand gestures because I only have one super key on the left side of the keyboard and my arrow keys are on the right side of my keyboard.
Yeah.
Now,
I have more.
well, yeah, I imagine that you probably have more because you're some kind of savage that owns a company.
Now, let me
But,
ask you this real quick, just briefly. Do you think KDE Plasma's defaults are as bad as Gnomes? Because I would argue KDE Plasma, the defaults in it, are just terrible.
They are both terrible.
Okay.
They are both the same.
They are both horrible. Even Windows is
Yeah.
horrible. My biggest gripe about Windows is like I try to use all these keyboard shortcuts that Windows imposes on me because I literally cannot change them. But
Yeah, I really want to do the Arch thing. I mean,
Now-
this weekend. I will
I
do the Arch thing.
understand that the Arch Linux community does not care because they're savages and they have to install everything through a command line anyway, so they know that they can just go to the settings, go to the Keybinds menu, and change it. But let's talk about closing a window now.
Well, Arch.
Now you're in. Now-
Just quickly, Arch is never going to ship any kind of customized
I know.
desktop environments. That's completely
because
against their philosophy. So there's
It is completely against Arch's philosophy, and I don't blame him for that. That's the way Arch is. Arch should never change from that ever. This is entirely Gnome's fault in this specific scenario. Now,
Yep.
let's take a moment and close the window using the keyboard on a Gnome desktop environment. The default keybind is Alt F4. Now our entire scheming logic is wrong because we just used the super key to maximize it. Why do I have to use the Alt key to close it?
yeah,
Because closing is gonna be painful.
Yeah, I mean, they just secretly want to hate you. They want you to.
No. Think of that. I mean, maximizing not gonna really hurt you. It's gonna be one key, but closing a window, by hitting something on the keyboard, it's gonna really hurt you. So it's just a combination to avoid that bad feeling when you close a window accidentally.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
why
well,
they
well,
it's a
Yeah,
more
I know.
complex one, just so you cannot really do it
yeah, it just
accidentally.
to avoid any accidentally
Now,
closing.
I feel
anything.
Josh's pain there on the key bindings. I hate, having to use super for some things, alt for some things, unless you just have a million key bindings. I don't mind them having alt F4 for closing something because
I
Windows
mean, it's been
users.
there. The RF4 has
But-
been there for a
Well,
long time.
But it
I'm
should be
talking
a
about, like,
duplicate
a
binding.
use-
There should be another binding binded to super also to do the same thing.
There should be, because
Right.
defaults matter. We're talking entirely through user experience and helping prevent people from just like going in frustrations by realizing that they have 7 different modifiers to do 7 different things.
Yeah.
Why can't everything be bound to one modifier action?
I think when we talk about window managers, the one window manager that just is brilliant for what they do is the awesome window manager when you can hold the super key and it actually displays all of your key bindings if you hold the super key. It brings up just a menu on your screen that says, this is the key binding that does this is the key binding that does that.
Well, let me
And-
take a moment to talk through like the logic that I use for like creating the keybinds off of my tiling window manager settings.
Mhm.
Everything was based off of the super key. The logic here is that everything that the window manager does should be based off of one key.
Right.
That way, because applications use the alt key, the control key, and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
But when I want to open a terminal, I hit super enter. If I want to close it, I hit super close.
The point of
I'm not
using the
hitting-
super key is that, yes, all of your applications use alt and control, so you
Yes,
can't use those. Yeah.
Every single base window manager application should be based off of just the super key. Now, say you want to do something with the window, that's super shift.
Mhm.
You just add on to that. That's the logic that I honestly think that more desktop environments should be using.
Yeah. When you're talking about the defaults matter, it seems like most of your complaints are specifically about key bindings. Is that largely
Well,
your
it
problem?
starts with key bindings. There's problems with other things as well. Because
Because I could
so-
talk about key bindings all day too, because you guys have heard me trash certain distributions and certain desktop
I mean-
environments for their weird choice in key bindings. So I'm with you on that.
So, I make the statement that Adwaita is king quite often because not only do I love the GNOME desktop environment, I love GTK applications because I don't like Qt applications. They just look weird and ugly. But anyways, the big problem with GTK 3 is that when I say Adwaita is king, it is true. Every single theme is literally just Adwaita plus. Adwaita is GTK 3. Whenever you make a GNOME shell theme, you are literally copying Adwaita and adding to it. You are not making your own theme. You can change your icon set, but you cannot affect the window borders. You cannot affect how the sizes of the title bars and all that, because Adwaita is king. That is literally baked into GNOME shell. GNOME shell.
Is it a bad thing or is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing or is it a good thing?
It's a bad thing.
Why?
It's terrible.
Unity is a bad thing?
So, are you using stock GNOME right now?
Yeah, I'm always using the GNOME.
Are you using the stock Adwaita theme?
Yeah, I'm everything on my desktop is just.
You're not
the
using a
GNOME.
dark theme, even though I can see a dark theme window behind you?
Yeah, here is the.
Okay, good. You are a champion of the people. I thank you for that. But why can't GNOME Shell ship with a way to adjust themes by default? Is because Adwaita is king and they cannot change it.
I have something to say, which is really bigger for me as a question. It's continue your question here, but it's kind of against it and also with it. That's getting back to the point I mentioned in the beginning. I mean, we have the Microsoft with whatever shitty platform they have for updates, file management, file system, everything.
I'm not talking about Microsoft. I'm talking about Linux now.
Just keep it there. Okay, it's just one single operating system with with something there, and we have the Linux community, which is an old community, by the way. I mean, considering the having a GNU and then Linux and then Horde kernel and everything else, and And again, all I can tell is that I wish that someday all of these GNOME, KDE, Peeling Window Manager, everyone, come together and create one wonderful, highly customizable desktop environment that meets everyone requirement. And instead
So
of
you
pop
want
like mushrooms everywhere and just live for a year or two. And
So
then
your
decide-
vision is literally just Plasma. Everybody just install Plasma, because Plasma can literally do everything that GNOME does. It even has an activities overview built into it if you enable it.
No, what I'm saying is that I wish that everyone just team up together and create something good. I love the fact that the freedom of the open source, and we have the right to distribute whatever you want and redistribute it, and create your own operating system or own version of the things. But I would say if we had these people working on the Debian or on CentOS or whatever OS you think, the Arch Linux, they would have been more completed, more magnificent than what they are today. That's my point. I mean, even companies like Nvidia wouldn't really bully us with not providing driver for us. That's my point. I mean, the Microsoft is so smaller than the whole Linux community, and they are the winner of the market. The Apple is just the freak. They are just so small. They are just the one of the most useless operating system I ever seen in my entire life.
The big difference
The
between
macOS is just a ridiculous operating system in my eyes. I mean,
the big thing about enforcing the defaults is that we're literally talking about Microsoft controlling Microsoft Windows. They have 100% control over what ships with Windows by default.
Yeah.
Linux, that is not possible with Linux.
Well, I put out there earlier this year, I made a video about it, that I strongly think Ubuntu, the flagship edition of Ubuntu, should change their desktop environment. I think GNOME is hurting them. I don't see I don't see people being excited about running GNOME anymore. I mean, people like
It
it.
isn't the point of being
But-
If you install a modern
Sorry,
version of
but it's
Ubuntu
about
and you just hit the
excited.
super key, you can immediately tell that is not Ubuntu. That is GNOME.
Yeah.
And as a guy that's used stock GNOME for years, I'm literally talking about since the very beginning of GNOME Shell. I've seen GNOME change a little bit, but it's had that very unique look to it. The look that looks like it's supposed to work for a touch screen. It's supposed to be on a tablet, stuff like that.
yeah.
Now, I cannot use desktop Ubuntu without enabling the GNOME session. Because honestly, the Yaru theme that GNOME look, it looks all right.
It looks
Until you
good.
actually go to-
I think the
Yeah,
theming's great. Yeah.
the icon, the Yaru dark icon set is just absolutely amazing, and I'm going to use it for as long as I could stand looking at gray and orange and purple.
I think the theme
But,
would look great on Ubuntu Mate as the flagship edition of Ubuntu.
No. That team definitely won't look great on
Ubuntu Mate.
Got to get rid of the green. No, the green is
no,
outdated.
no,
It's-
no.
No matter what you do,
No.
Ubuntu Mate will never look good default because they love their greens so much, and green is a terrible color, and nobody should ever appreciate green.
Well, they're
But
in
anyways,
they're in a three-way
using
battle with Mint and OpenSUSE.
green. Chelsea cucumber green is the best green you could possibly get, and green is possibly the best color ever. Don't fight me on that,
I mean, I drive a car that's green.
because we know what we're doing. Green is awesome.
If you install Ubuntu, you're not stuck with GNOME. You can use task cell and select from KDD.
Well, yeah, you can do that on any desktop distribution.
Yeah, we're talking about the default.
But
Yeah.
the crux of my argument is the defaults matter. Ubuntu by default ships with Ubuntu, and it's a very
I agree with you. I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
kind of when I installed the Ubuntu first time, I said to myself, why would I do that? I mean, it's just the Debian
yeah.
with some different background. So why would I do that? There's
It's
not much
just
different.
Debian, really.
I mean, when
It's
you
not
think about it,
Debian,
like
really.
the big thing that Ubuntu has compared to Debian is that Ubuntu has slightly newer packages because they've run off of the Debian testing base.
Yeah, they're
So
going
compared
to.
to C-
If you're
they're
talking
gonna
about
be-
Debian stable, there's a difference, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
talking about the Debian
A lot
system.
of things.
Yeah.
I mean, when people talk about installing Debian, I always assume that they're talking about installing Debian stable, because I've used Debian for like 6 years prior to this year.
I'm
Yeah.
sit for a long time, for 5 years. So
Yeah, I've installed Debian stable, and that was literally my distribution. I used that for 6 years. I went from 8 to
It's
9
never
to
breaks.
10.
It never breaks.
It is
Never
a
breaks.
fantastic distro when you finally just decide that you're just going to live with it.
Yeah, it's not good for people who has just need the distro hopping or stuff like that. So yeah,
I mean, even for like the people that want to install like the tiling window managers and all that,
It
you have
wouldn't-
to realize that the tiling
Yeah.
window managers don't really update that often. for
Some of
anything that you
them are
really
all
care
right.
about.
Some of them would be okay. But if you use something that is written in a language that updates like every day, like Xmonad,
Yeah.
you need to
Well,
be
yeah,
on
you
some,
don't-
you need to be on something other than Debian for that.
That's only if you want to stay current.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
we're
guess
talking
you
about-
don't have
we're
to.
talking about the window
Yeah, I guess you don't have to. But new features are going to come out, and are you going to wait 5 years or whatever for the next 3 years?
Well,
usually for the
a
next
lot of
version of
people
Debian.
will.
why not Debian
A
Seed?
lot of people
Again,
will.
why not Debian Seed?
Yeah.
I have a slightly newer package than any of you on any of your distro which running. I mean,
Well,
I
at the
can-
same time, Debian Sid is
Which
not.
version of the Python you have on your which version of the Python you have on your Arch Linux right now?
Okay, so let me take a moment to
One
talk
question.
about Debian Sid
Do I need
and
to have-
versus Arch. Because Debian Sid is not pushing released packages. They are pushing development packages because that's what Debian Sid is. It is the development version of Debian.
It's still more stable than any of the rolling release.
Well, yeah, it is stable because they're using development stable packages because Debian is a long-term release
Yeah, it
distribution.
never breaks. Never breaks.
Yeah, that is how Debian is supposed to work. Arch just wants to push the latest release possible.
Yeah,
Now-
just give me your Python version, Python 3 version.
I could pull
I
mine
have,
up.
I have Windows installed right now, so I can't
Yeah,
really pull
let
up
me
any
see.
package versions for you.
I did.
I mean,
up-
I guess I could probably pull it off the server.
I think
but
I've
that's where it's
updated
saved.
recently.
Did you say that
3.9.1 on Arch right now.
Yeah, same here, 291.
Yeah.
And
On
Debian Seed.
on Debian Sid, but on Debian Stable, it's 3.7.3.
Yeah, on the seed it's 391, same as Arch.
On Ubuntu 2010, it's 3.8.6.
Yeah, Ubuntu is always behind.
Yeah, but that's what people want. Reality is that's what most people
No.
want.
Okay, so
not-
I'm
I-
okay. So I
about-
just saw an amazing question in chat. The question here is Gen 2 more stable than Arch? I'm going to answer this, and
Ooh.
everybody can agree with this. It is as stable as you want it to be.
Yeah.
That is literally how a rolling distribution works. It is as stable as you want it to be. Because I can break Arch.
I can
You
break
want to talk about
Debian.
breaking Arch?
I can break Debian. I can break anything.
Yeah, I have broken every single Linux distribution
I have
through
broken
just
some
their
Gentoo.
standard package manager.
I've broken some Gen 2 installs before, and is it more stable? Is it less stable? I don't know. The problem is fixing Gen 2 is always trickier than fixing Arch, just because of the compile times and everything. I just hate working
mean,
with Gen 2. So,
It just takes longer on Gen 2.
yeah,
because
it
you're-
does. It
I've
does.
installed Linux from scratch. You want to talk about hating yourself?
Yeah.
I actually installed Linux from scratch, got it all the way to a working Plasma desktop because I really wanted to hate myself that much. It took me 2 weeks.
No, I mean, one of the reasons I run Arch is because I don't like building things from source. For example, running things like Debian Stable a lot in years past. I would want newer things, and I would have to go out and build those packages.
That's okay.
And then they have dependencies. I'd have to build those, and it leads you down this rabbit hole. I'm putting in all of this work.
Yeah.
If I just switch distros, all of my problems go away.
Yeah, that's why I just switched from the stable to the seed.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to compile anything.
Exactly,
In
yeah.
the stable, you have a 3.8, 3.7, 3.6.
Right.
And you need a 3.9. You have to go to the seed or compile it yourself, which is going to be a painful thing.
Yeah, I mean, but when it comes down to back to my argument of defaults matter, the traditional person, the traditional desktop user, I'm not talking to us nerds. I'm talking to everybody else in the world. They want to install something and just have it work.
Yeah.
Windows, that is why Windows is a default, because Windows works. It is familiar. Everybody uses Windows as a result. Now, Linux will never be like Windows.
Yeah.
We have to accept this. So why do we have to use the same key binding schemes? Why do we have to have our distributions
We
look
don't.
like Windows?
I don't mind them using the same key bindings as long as it's a duplicate binding. You want some legacy there for.
Well, yeah, you want some legacy. You want some familiarity.
Right.
But let me talk about the greatest Linux desktop environment of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It is the greatest. Everybody wants it back. everybody loves it. It's called Unity.
No, that thing was
No?
trash.
I like Unity.
Yeah, it was
I really
trash,
do.
but
It's a great
but
desktop environment.
let's take a moment and appreciate what Canonical tried to do.
That was one of the best desktop environment I ever seen.
Now,
It also got the.
I'm
Canonical
not
did
gonna
do an
ask
amazing
you to
thing
turn on your
before.
Linux computers and install Unity right now. Just take a moment, just look up the Unity desktop environment off of Google.
Can you do
Image
that? I think you can still install the Unity.
You can.
Well, yeah, you can still install
Yes, you can.
Unity, and
And
there
there
is.
is actually Ubuntu respin.
Oh yes, if you want a moment of enjoyment in your web developer, go
That
to
was really
Ubuntu
cool.
Unity's
was
website
really
and just appreciate all the CSS code that the little kid just discovered.
Yeah.
But
Well, when we're talking
anyways,
about websites, there's a lot of Linux websites out there that you can tell that they don't work with web languages very often.
well, no, but when I'm talking about defaults, everybody right now just look up a picture of the Unity desktop environment. You have that. But-
Let me refresh.
Yeah, by default, you have an image that has a panel on the left side with all your applications listed.
Yeah.
You have menu options across the top, and you have a more traditional window layout when you open a window. I think, if I remember correctly, the Unity buttons were not on the right side; they were on the left side.
Yeah,
Because and you quickly get this feeling that when you use the Unity desktop environment, everything in the top left matters.
that was what made it great. You hardly ever had to move the mouse.
Now,
You can still do that with the tweak, with the non
and
tweak.
yeah, the Unity tweak tool, you can change that. I think even some of the Gnome tweak features work because Unity was originally based off.
We can reproduce the Unity with the non tweak right now. I mean, the exact the same thing. I mean, the combination of menus and stuff.
Yeah, you can do that, but defaults matter here. We're literally talking about defaults. We're not talking about using a tweak tool.
Yep.
So you open an application. One of the fantastic things this is the best thing that Unity did at its time. It doesn't work so well nowadays. But say you take an application and you full screen it in Unity. Well, you lose the title bar in Unity.
Yeah.
Because it's wasted
I really
space.
like-
Yeah,
I mean, it's
It's
really like
wasted
that.
space, and it integrates into the top panel of Unity like it does in Mac OS.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why tiling window managers don't put that title bar there. Why do you need to see the title of the window? You can't tell what you're working in?
Yeah,
Right.
it's like you can't tell
You
what window
can't tell
you have
that's
open right now.
Firefox, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here on a Windows installation right now. The very first thing I did when I installed Windows and got it activated was I took the panel that Microsoft Windows ships and I put it on the top of the screen because it's just like I don't see why anybody puts a panel on the bottom of their screen.
Unity
just
also
makes no
did the
sense
great
to
the trick that Awesome Window Manager does. Unity also, when you held the super key, it would display all the keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah.
Yes, it did do that. It did do that, and it included keyboard shortcuts to resize windows as well, and even resizing the window with the mouse was more convenient on Unity than it was on Windows as well. But that's when you
that many people are against this idea and they think the most creepy and shitty desktop environment ever was Unity. I mean,
No,
well, yeah.
Unity was
many
probably the
people-
best thing going at
Well,
the time because
yeah,
your only
let's
other
take
options were GNOME 3 at the time, which was horrible, those early
So,
versions, and
when Unity
KDE 4.
came out-
KDE 4 was also really bad. So,
when
Yes,
Unity
it's
came
bad.
out, there were like 4 desktop environments.
yeah.
There
And
was
you-
XFCE for the people that hated themselves. There was
Yeah.
there was GNOME Shell, KDE4, and Unity. That was it.
I mean, what,
Everybody
what-
else just used window
what
managers.
was Canonical gonna do? I mean, you're
Yeah,
not gonna
like-
go with those others. You had to create
What-
your own thing there.
So Canonical in I think it was 11.10 that Unity first shipped in.
It was.
Somewhere around there.
No,
But,
it was 1104 because
Oh.
I alpha tested that
Yeah.
thing and
Unity was hot garbage.
I
Gnome Shell was hot
reinstalled
garbage.
like 6 times during the development period.
Yes. But when you go from, if you look at the progression of how much it improved with every single release, Unity went from hot garbage to actually something that even I would use today.
Yeah.
Well, they had to do a lot of work because that first version, the 1104 version, they still were maintaining 2 different Unities. You guys
Yep.
remember they had a Unity, 2D or something that didn't use Compiz, and that was Qt based. instead of GTK based. So they actually maintained a GTK Unity and a Qt Unity for, I think, 2 versions, because I think they still had it in 11.10 too. I think they eventually dropped it though.
Yeah, they did drop a Unity Lite, I think they called it.
Mm-hmm.
And they dropped that after like 2 years or something like that. But,
Also, the very early Unity in 11.04, I don't think was based on GNOME 3 at that time. They had to do a lot of refactoring in those first 2 or 3 releases of Unity. It was a ton of work for those guys, which was why it was extremely buggy.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate any software developer out there that does something other than just create a standard application that you open on your desktop. Like, if you are a person that develops a window manager, I want to talk to you. I want to hug you. I want to buy you dinner. If you are a person that works in the creation of a full desktop environment suite, I want to have dinner with you as well. I love you guys because you guys are savages. You guys are taking on some of the hardest work that is even capable. It is harder than driver support in some cases, because you are working with a very subjective field of user design experience.
Yeah.
Because there is a point when you're working with a driver that it works and you are done. You are never done when you're working on a desktop environment. You will never be done.
No. It's not
Gnome is
about
great without add-ons.
the user interface.
Don't- You in chat that just said that Gnome is good without add-ons, you are lying to yourself. Adwaita is king. You need to appreciate Gnome. You need to love Gnome Shell.
I could use GNOME without any add-ons, but that's because I would probably just keybind everything, my standard like tiling window manager things where I'd open things with the keyboard and close with the keyboard. And I mean, I could get along with GNOME without any extensions at all if I wanted to, and probably like it.
Yeah, it's working for 4 years now.
It was
So,
pretty
The
unfair
biggest
to the Unity people that people was comparing it with Genome and with KDE when they have like 1 year, 2 years developing, and Genome have been 10, 12, 20 years of development. So you cannot compare a project that mature with Unity. They were trying to do it, and at the end, when the project was finally dropped, they have a pretty honest, decent behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But let me roll back to 2010 when Gnome Shell first came out. Gnome was actually in a rougher place than most people realize.
Yeah, they didn't know where they were going with it. The design changed many times.
Yeah, they had a vision,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to accomplish that vision, but the development support was not there, and the monetary support to pay the developers was not there.
Yeah.
That's why Red Hat came into Gnome. That's why Red Hat and Gnome are best buddies these days.
And
we're talking about like
the reason Canonical went with Unity is they asked the GNOME team, "Hey, we need certain features in GNOME 3 for us to use it," and they said no. So it's like, okay,
pretty
well,
much, but,
we'll fork it.
So let's talk about the logic of Gnome Shell.
Yeah.
Gnome Shell, they give you very convenient access to virtual desktop environments. They're dynamically created. They are never static, because the intention with Gnome Shell is that everything is full screen. That is it. Everything is full screen except for like maybe a file manager and a terminal window. You open an application, it's gonna be full screen, and then you want to open another application. Well, you just go to a different virtual desktop and you open it there, because those are persistent windows. That's why the Alt Tab behavior in Gnome Shell is fairly weird to start with. It's not like you're just tabbing through windows, you're tabbing through application sources. But
I don't know.
Gnome had that.
As a tiling window manager user, it is hard for me to like the way virtual workspaces work and things like GNOME.
It's
because
different.
Yeah,
they don't call them workspaces.
Right.
Well, they don't call them virtual desktops. They call them workspaces,
Mm-hmm.
because they want you to eliminate the idea of what a workspace is used for. They want you to fit into like their philosophy of the ultimate workflow. Gnome literally works best on a single monitor. That is what it is designed
That's the problem.
for.
That's the problem I have with it is on
Now-
my 3-monitor system, I hate the way it works. On a
Now,
laptop,
when
it'd
you-
be fine.
Well, what's the reason?
Now, the
That's-
reason why Gnome behaves so weirdly with multiple monitors.
Just so to speak, I have no on this
Yeah,
too.
I know. We've established this earlier. I know that you have Gnome. Now, When you install a second monitor,
Okay.
GNOME is designed and intended for programmers.
Okay.
Is it?
We have to realize this first.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I am. Yeah.
It's yes and no, but when you
I agree with you.
attach a second monitor, that second monitor is used for reference only. That's why it never changes when you switch your desktop environment.
You mean
Only
because you don't have
deferrers.
the top bar there?
Yeah, you don't have the top bar. You don't have
Yeah,
anything. That screen is.
You can install an add-on to have it on all monitors.
If you look at the GNOME logic and what the discussions that they were having in the various chat channels, mailing lists, and all that, that second screen was a reference screen as well as the third
But
screen.
you
and the
can't
fourth
have it
screen.
with the plugin.
Yeah, you can change it with the plugin, but that second screen was to never change.
If I'm not mistaken, even the Ubuntu 2024 also have this functionality that you can have it on all monitors, or even I think you can have it on all
Now,
monitors.
does a GNOME do the annoying thing that other like Plasma and things do? Like I have 3 monitors here. I open a window on my first monitor, and then I go to the second workspace, and really all 3 monitors go to a second workspace. It's like all 3 monitors are on a first workspace, then all 3 are on a
By default, GNOME does not support any virtual workspaces on a secondary monitor. Because a secondary monitor is one static workspace and it will never change.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I have to have my monitors be able to be independent.
Well, when you think about it from like the programmer's perspective, what is that second monitor used for? It is used for reference code. It is used for like your Stack Overflow page that you're basically copy pasting off of, because let's be real, that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
but that is your reference. That's why a lot of programmers use the vertically mounted monitors so they can see more code. They don't want that to change. Not the majority.
No, I mean, as a software developer, I'm so happy with
like
it. I'm not gonna change it.
It's almost like the purpose of having a home office. You walk into the office, that is 100% of your work. You walk into the office, you are built into that working mood. It's similar. It's a similar mindset to that.
I agree with you. I mean, whatever you. I mean, you mentioned a couple of the time that I'm just people champion by using the GNOME itself. But the point is that I'm a software developer, so whatever GNOME default offers to me, except that annoying minimize and maximize thing, it really works for me. I mean, I don't have to change anything else, and I'm so happy with it. The ultra wide monitor I have is just for referencing my some Stack Overflow pages and my code. And Webpack refreshing, and I have my first monitor for development and everything else. So I don't see any point of, as I said, it's just based on the use case. For me, as I said, this Debian thing and the GNOME thing works. For DT, it's just Arch and telling Windows Manager. And for you, I'm sure you have something more complex. It just the only thing I can say, I'm just so happy that we have everyone have its own version of operating system.
And talking about defaults is different for this crowd here, because all of us could.
I said that at the very
all
start.
of us could turn GNOME into something that we could work with, right? All of us could turn Plasma into something we could work with. I mean, we could make anything work at the end of the day.
I mean, ideally, I'm the kind of person that when I install an application and I use it, I want it to work out of the box. Like I install a music player, I want it to open up. About the most I want to do is point it towards where I keep my music, because I don't keep it in the default location.
Well, what I would suggest is look into window managers. That way you can create your own desktop environment, then version control that thing, and you never have to worry about it again. Problem solved.
That's what I've done with Awesome Window Manager. But let's just say that like I'm installing something for my grandma. Grandma wants a computer that works. She wants to open up Firefox and that's it. Or like an internet browser of some kind, and that's it. Grandma doesn't care what her .config file says.
It's not your grandma only. I mean, 95% of the casual user in the office and in the business just use the Microsoft Office, or any kind of Office and browser.
But I'm not talking about the working person. I'm talking about the traditional person at home using a computer.
Everyone, the browser and the Microsoft Office. I mean, any kind of the Office is enough for everyone.
Yeah, but you don't even need Microsoft Office. You can just get by with LibreOffice and like 99% of home use cases.
Libre or any kind of Office. I mean, just
so ideally, let's start. I'm going to start talking about like my perfect desktop environment setup. It does not have a panel. It has a launcher. That's it. This is literal. I'm going to talk about like this logic as if I'm setting up an open box.
When you
with,
say
like,
a launcher, you're talking about like a dock or
Yeah, dock.
okay.
That's literally it.
Alright.
Let's just take open box here. It is just a desktop background. You have your applications going across the bottom, the top, wherever the heck you want them. All it consists of is your web browser, an email client if you're that kind of a savage, and your Office suite, and a music player because we got to play our music. That is it. There's nothing else on there. That is perfect for 99% of people that are using a computer at home.
Yeah, if you
That's
set it
gonna
up.
be, that's maybe Google Chrome. I mean, it's gonna be
Yeah,
like a
that-
Chromebox.
That's
or-
literally how a Chromebook works.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is part of the reason why.
As long
the
as they can open up their Google Chrome and get to the face page, most people are good.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about when defaults matter. It's just like, let's take a moment and just realize this. Now, Ubuntu is trying to target the largest audience possible. That's why they have all these useless things such as the dock and all that other stuff and launchers and weird stuff in terminals. But if we take the computer and just simplify it down to its barest core of like what a person actually uses a computer for, that's really all we need.
So it's gonna be a kernel and a browser, if you ask me.
A kernel, a browser, and like a window manager.
Yeah. I mean, basically a dock and
Yeah,
some-
basically just go to Alpine Linux, download it, and install GUI on it.
So then why not going with the Android or any version of the Android?
So, Android is not efficient. You want me to talk about Android right now?
No. I mean
Okay.
any version of the Android or iOS kind of
Chrome OS, right? We just
I mean, Chrome OS is the best example of this because if you're willing to do it, you can compile Chrome OS yourself.
Yeah.
It is technically free and open source. You can download Chromium OS. You can go to the website. You can download all the source code. You can compile it, and you can
that
make
by
a
the way,
real
there's a big
operating
news
system.
there. There's a big news there. There was a company who was offering the Chrome OS for 86 computer devices, which is acquired by Google. So it seems that Google gonna release the Chrome OS for anyone soon, not only
Yeah.
Chrome.
it would make sense for
Wait.
them.
Which
Yeah.
it makes sense for Google to do that eventually because like if I build a desktop computer and I just don't want to use Microsoft Windows, am I really going to install Linux?
Let me see the company name to make sure.
Cloud ready. I believe it
Yeah,
is.
Cloud Ready.
Yeah.
That's-
And like that would be a great and fantastic thing for like for somebody to go out and use.
And you guys know that the new Chrome OS is also came with the Debian kernel, so you can have like kind of a development on it based on the.
Does it have the Debian kernel?
Yeah, the
Probably.
common Debian kernel.
I thought they were still using the modified Android kernel that they were using.
No, it comes with the Debian kernel because they
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to have more people like developers to working on the.
They want
Chrome
to be
OS.
able to install dip packages on.
Yeah, the
on it,
packages
yeah.
and stuff.
And
Yeah.
I think they are also even switched from the Ubuntu with the Debian testing internally on the. It's
Oh, you talking about their Google's own customized Linux,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ubuntu,
they use
or
No,
whatever.
no, the
use,
Ubuntu is gone. The Ubuntu is gone, and it's just G Linux, I think.
Yeah, whatever they're.
know.
Yeah, it's
It's a Debian testing now.
Debian testing with believe it with
internal
some other package manager. They're not actually using up. They're maybe using Emerge.
Yeah, they use
that's
some
Ubuntu's, yeah.
internal stuff on top of the testing, and they test. I mean, they have their own repo of the software. They get the testing version of the software. They work on it, and then they release it internally. But it's kind of a bit G Linux, something like that, I think. So the Chrome is gonna have the Debian kernel too. If you, I mean, it's gonna be released as a general operating system, which is gonna kind of break the neck of the Microsoft as well as Apple, hopefully.
I mean, we're not going to break the neck of Microsoft anytime soon. We're still like 10 years out before Microsoft even falls below 70% market share.
10 years.
yeah. Well, I don't know.
I'm predicting.
Chrome.
You don't know. You don't know.
I honestly feel like I'm being optimistic when I say 10 years on that. It might
Yeah.
even be longer than that.
We should remember that corporate makes probably 75% of all computer usage.
I don't know if Chrome OS released x86 images and
Yeah, we're gonna have it.
and OEMs could put that thing on there for free. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Why,
Yeah.
why would you
OS
put?
already has x86 images.
It's gonna
They
be
just haven't
free
released
OS.
them.
Yeah.
It's gonna be free
There
OS
are
from the Google.
x86 laptops
Yeah.
Yeah.
from laptops. Reality is that most companies will use what's called Windows, and unless that drastically changes, I don't see falling below probably 70-60%.
Well, yeah.
2021 is going to be the year of the Linux desktop, though. It's
Really,
coming.
what we need to do is just take all the students that are in the schools, get rid of all the Chromebooks, the Windows computers, just get them using Linux. That's really the only way
That
we're going
would be
to
the
be able to
only
grow.
way.
That is the only way we're going to be able to grow Linux quickly, and we have to literally plan for the long term there.
Yeah.
Put Pine books in everybody's hands at school.
That's
The
basically
other
what I'm saying,
option-
because Pinebooks run Linux.
Yeah.
The other option is every company needs to start buying Dell XPS developer editions. That's the other way.
Yeah,
of,
but
getting
the
Linux
problem with the
into
Dell
hands.
XPS is that it's got the developer edition labeled in its name.
Yeah.
That's going to be kind of off-putting.
Yeah.
The thing is
Yeah,
that
but-
for me is always that the one thing that everyone have to do is just to not buy the Intel and NVIDIA CPU and GPU. That's all I can say. I mean, these are the two cancer in the whole hardware, thing with the Linux. I mean, the AI works fantastic on Linux.
As far as the XPS having developer in the name, I mean, it's a $1,300 laptop.
It's so expensive.
You can't
Well, yeah,
market
the
that
casual
to a
user's probably
normal
not buying
person because they would never buy
Yeah.
that. It's like, why is it so expensive?
Yeah, I never gone for the
Right.
developer edition. It's so expensive. It doesn't make sense for me to spend like $1,500 on just a laptop, 13-inch laptop. So being a developer. Although I always use 3 monitor to work, I don't see how I can work on the 13-inch.
I would never spend more than $400 or $500 on a laptop ever, unless I actually worked on a laptop. That's not. If I want to sit down and do work, I'm going to sit down at a proper keyboard and monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. If a laptop's your desktop replacement, then spend a lot of money on it.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
I
Worth
agree.
it.
Okay, so this is not a sponsor of DT because I don't think you've ever taken a sponsor, but this is a System 76 laptop. It's a Lemur
That's
Pro.
a lovely one, yeah.
Yeah, I bought this earlier this year, like a month after they came out with it for 12.
I don't have any respect for them because they're using the NVIDIA and Intel, but it's good.
Well, this does not have an NVIDIA chip in it.
Yeah.
So, but the big thing with this laptop is not economical below $1,000. It is just plain not.
Yeah.
If I was to take all these screws off, you would see the proprietary motherboard that this laptop uses.
Yeah.
Now, System 76 does use rebadged Clevo computers. I could buy a computer that looks just like this from Clevo.
Do
But-
they use
Yeah.
a specific EFI OS?
Hmm?
Do they use a special EFI?
Yeah, they
Special
do.
firmware. Yeah, they use special firmware.
They actually take the whole control board out of here and replace it.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
have a completely different logic board in here. Now, if you're a small company the size of System 76, you are not going to be able to produce this on a scale mass enough that you could sell for cheap. It is economically impossible in today's society.
Well, they're going for the wrong demographic, in my opinion. If they just targeted the Linux crowd, the Linux enthusiasts, if they Libre booted
They
that
do.
thing and put it out, I'd buy one.
Yeah, I mean, did they call a Libre version of this laptop?
Well,
Without any stuff?
This laptop uses Core Boot.
Yeah, Core Boot's good.
It's not Libre Boot.
Yeah.
It is.
No,
It is
it's
open
good.
source.
I agree with you. It's really fun. But how about your wireless? How about your CPU? You know that there is an operating system inside your CPU, the Intel CPU you buy.
Yeah.
It's
Which is
a part of every
This does
CPU.
have the Intel management engine enabled. It does use it.
Yeah, I mean
that is proprietary. That is
that's
something
the end for me. That's for any hardware that comes with kind of the
Yeah.
platform you mentioned. That's a dead end for me.
but there's already companies
So
targeting that.
then, how are you using a computer?
How do I?
Hamid, how are you using computer? Because if you have an AMD CPU, you have some sort of platform inside there. If you're using a GPU,
No.
you have that inside.
It's completely optional by AMD. So I have it in my main board so I can enable or disable it.
You can
But
disable
for
it, yeah.
Intel, it's always on. It's always on. That's my problem with the Intel. It's always on. I mean, I don't want it. I don't want you. I mean, I don't want you to spy on me what I'm doing. I don't see why I have to do that. For the Wi-Fi card, I mean, I don't see why I have to have a blob of the kernel, which is come with the proprietary driver on the wireless card. I don't see that why. I mean, who's gonna stop you from spying on my daily life?
No,
Who's gonna
I
stop
actually
you if it's
agree.
open source.
I actually
No,
agree with
That is
Hamid here.
a very valid concern.
Yeah.
But let me just take a moment to respond to Umka in the YouTube chat here, where he came out and said that I see no point in buying a Linux laptop because I have no special case for expensive hardware. There are
I said that. I said
Hold on.
No, that's not to you. It's to the YouTube chat.
Now, this laptop I only use once a month for probably a couple of hours. That's it. Why did I buy it? Because I did not buy
I would
it.
love to pay that. I would love to pay that, as
No.
long as they follow the Linux community,
Right.
which is, I mean, you're paying the System 76 for what? For I mean, any kind of the laptop.
I'm not paying
regardless,
System
you do the
76
same
because I'm
things.
paying for System 76. I'm paying for System 76 because they are a vendor that makes not crap hardware, puts it out there, and ships Linux on it. That is why I spent so much money on this.
Maybe DT can help me here. I would like to see System 76 create a Linux, I mean the real Linux laptop with core boot. Without any
I would like to
hardware.
see AMD GPUs instead of
Yeah.
NVIDIA because
Yeah. I
NVIDIA
would
you
buy
have to
10.
use
I
the
would buy 10.
proprietary, So
Yeah, I would buy
right.
10 of them. I mean,
Yeah,
regardless,
that is
I have my
fine.
crap here with the
I don't
Asus.
I don't mind NVIDIA being an option, but again, you're marketing to a Linux enthusiast kind of crowd, even though that's not really what System 76 is. Really, the only people that are going to buy that laptop are people like us. And I want some different options.
When you take a moment to look at the people that-
the purism, I think.
Yeah.
I think one of the
Yeah.
things that really totally free and liber kernel. I already have 2 laptops from them, and anytime I can, I have extra money, I will buy from them to support them because
Well-
they are the Linux people. I mean, that's my idea. I mean, my personal idea. What a company who is providing.
And you know
the
what's great about that is that Libreboot idea would appeal to people even outside of Linux, like even people that were running Windows or Mac. Even when you talk about, hey, the Libreboot and the safety aspects, security aspects of it, people might actually buy that otherwise would never try Linux just because you Librabooted the thing.
I mean, they have some physical, privacy stuff like the key that
The
you can
switches.
close your Wi-Fi. And they have some software things with the liber kernel and everything else. I love to see them grow. I mean.
The problem with Purism is they don't do a good job of marketing themselves. It's the problem.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. If System
They even have a
76,
cell phone.
their platform, if they put it out, System 76 would make it a hit.
The problem.
They even have a cell phone, BT, I think.
Yeah.
They have a really nice cell phone, which is also the privacy concerned cell phone, which comes with the Linux, I think.
Okay. So let me correct a couple things here. First of all, in chat, somebody said the System 76 does not have an AMD GPU laptop or an Intel GPU laptop. They are working on it. They've actually came out on the Twitter feed and said it. Now, let's talk about Purism here. The reason why Purism is not more popular than they already are, they are actually doing some pretty solid marketing on just their YouTube channel, and they get conversations from like all these other things. They could be more aggressive about that, yes. But the problem with Purism is that they're shipping old hardware.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is it's people didn't like the price point for what they were getting for.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
I
is.
mean, there are not so many people really concerned about their privacy, and they need them. They need more hardware.
Yeah, and they are already selling to a
really
very
concept.
niche market. They're trying to sell to the people that go out to buy an old computer because they know that they can run all their free and open source software on it. That's who Purism's market really is, and Purism is actually really selling well in that market for the people willing to pay the
Just a
price.
quick quote here. Just a quick quote here. So as you see, there is not so much problem with taking over the market from the Microsoft, regardless of the fact that the majority of the problem came from the companies like the Intel and Nvidia. If they just be deleted from the market or replaced by something else, we don't have such a problem to taking over the whole operating system market from the Microsoft. That's the main problem here. If you look at this correctly,
You know what?
We have to buy old hardware because my Wi-Fi is not working. I have to sit here on my local area network, LAN driver, and everything else, and find a cheap 10 years old or 4 years old or 5 years old Wi-Fi chip to work with my liber kernel. These are the problems. I mean, why wouldn't we have a why not everyone pushing the Intel to release the driver? source code.
And just to go in a different direction here, because we're going to run out of time here in a little bit, but 2020, one of the big stories I didn't mention was the fact that Za Reason went out of business. They manufactured Linux computers, and they blamed it on COVID, which may be the actual reason. I don't know. I wonder if they were struggling before then, though.
Well, the big thing was Za Reason, and they were very unique to start with because I believe that they actually manufactured everything in house.
I don't know if they manufactured everything, but yeah,
well, they manufactured a majority of things in house. Now, the buy-in prospect of that is very expensive, and that's not something that's typically done these days because it is seen as expensive.
Well, there's development costs with stuff like that.
Yeah, there is development costs with that, and at the same time, they were shipping stock distributions, which that was a debate from earlier. But the main reason why the reason went out was purely because of marketing.
So what you're saying is that everyone who is doing Linux hardware should have also a Pop OS. I mean, I hate the Pop OS in any way. I mean,
well,
I don't see why there is Ubuntu, there is a Pop OS, there is this and that. I mean,
I like choice. I like choice because it's not hard to flash any image to the drive.
Right? There's a freedom of choice. There is no freedom of choice.
Let's just take a moment here and just discuss Linux users in general. You install Linux. You're already a more smarter person than most of the people that use a computer because you've installed Linux. You know how to install an operating system.
Yeah, but I don't mind it coming to me with Ubuntu or Fedora or whatever it is I want already on there. Yeah. Now, to people that don't know better, yeah, just put Ubuntu on it. But also, hey, if you know what you're doing, hey, we'll put Arch or SUSE or whatever it is you want on there.
That's fine with me. But what I'm saying is that when there is a Ubuntu, which is come with like almost everything you need in terms of even drivers, why there's a Pop OS? I mean, I know there's like this and that changes, in the UI, in the key binding, the way
they do it mainly because of the NVIDIA drivers, right? They're doing it because people
I think the Ubuntu I tried it last time. It's come really good. In terms of driver, both AMD and NVIDIA.
Ubuntu installs NVIDIA driver by default.
If you
I saw that.
Yeah, but Pop OS did it first.
Did they? No, Ubuntu's been, well, I don't know.
By
default, maybe.
They had a special ISO for NVIDIA.
Yeah, they have a special ISO for it because installing the proprietary NVIDIA driver is a giant pain in the butt if you've never done it before.
Yeah, because Ubuntu's always had it as an option. They just don't tick it on by default for obvious reasons. You have to choose it yourself.
Ubuntu did it before the Pop OS. The Pop OS just doing that by default. Ubuntu doesn't done that by default. That's the thing. You have to go to the software setting, to the repository, and change the where you want the driver to install.
But Ubuntu, you can now, I believe from 18.10, you basically go to, or 19.10, during installation, you have another tick box. You click it, and it will install. It's just I believe it replaces the tick box for the multimedia stuff. It added additional section about proprietary drivers. When you click
I love everything about the freedom of choice. I love everything about this stuff.
Now,
but copying one each other, like Ubuntu to Debian, Debian to Ubuntu, and then Ubuntu to Kubuntu, and then do Ubuntu to the Pop OS, which is basically doing the same with just a slight, different. It just make no sense to me. I'm sorry. I may be stupid.
The one thing I will say about Pop OS, why it makes sense for System 76, is that you never know when you adopt somebody else's distribution when it will die, like CentOS.
Yeah.
If you're maintaining your own thing,
then go with Debian.
You're in total control. Debian being a community-based distro, you wouldn't expect them to ever just completely vanish.
Okay, so with that debate of I have a CentOS server right now, and I am going to be moving it to Debian. Let's just say that you have bought into the Red Hat ecosystem. I'm talking about the ecosystem as a whole. I'm talking about Fedora, CentOS, and Red Hat.
I've been there. I'm still there.
Now,
server on that.
There are some things that CentOS did differently from Debian.
There are thousands of the things that CentOS.
Yeah, there are thousands of things. There are some things that CentOS did better than Debian. There are some things that
cannot even upgrade from the CentOS 7 to CentOS 8 without having a week of downtime.
So it comes down to a moment where it's just like you have to realize that some people just do not like change.
Yeah.
I do not
Some
like the
people,
change.
some people are the savages out there that want 2 different commands to upgrade their system.
Mhm.
There, in CentOS, you can literally just go sudo dnf up.
Oh, I sometimes get support questions of things, hey, I saw your video on this Arch-based distribution. Sudo apt update doesn't do anything. Like, I know.
That is a problem.
Right.
Now,
You got people like that out there. So,
there are some people that actually like typing out the full name of aptitude.
ooh.
There are. Trust me,
Really?
I've met them. They like typing in aptitude or apt-get.
Because they're used to it.
I don't see
Because
that.
this is purely because of familiarity.
Right.
It feels weird to just type in apt install.
Personally, I enjoy typing in cat, the file name, and piping it to grep.
Oh, you know how many
Ins-
times a day I
instead
get
of-
messages about me typing clear in the terminal, and people can't understand why you type clear when you can just do Control L. And
Yeah, because it is familiar.
and
You're
I've
used
never really
to it.
explained this, but it also depends on what shell I'm in and whether I'm using the Emacs bindings or the Vim bindings in the shell, because Control L will not work if I'm using the Vim bindings and Bash, which is what I'm in most of the time. So
Yeah.
that's why I type the full word clear, but I don't know why people care. Like, what does it matter whether I type it with CLEAR or just Control L?
No.
Right.
Up to that part that it's about the familiarity is fine with me.
Yeah.
My major problem would be why still there is Ubuntu and Pop OS. I mean, I don't get it at all.
Something
I still don't get it.
that grinds my gears. Why Debian ships with four different package managers?
Look, we're talking about the Debian.
Probably legacy
I can
reasons,
answer
right?
that.
Legacy reasons.
We're talking about the Debian, okay? We're talking about the CentOS. They are 2 different things, okay?
Yeah.
CentOS basically it is not an operating system itself. It was basically a forge from Red Hat, which is a proprietary software without those subscription stuff. So it wasn't an independent OS like the Debian itself.
Yeah.
Debian was, from the beginning built by the community for the community. It's so much different than CentOS.
No.
It's so different. So Red Hat killing the CentOS slowly with those smart plan of we are the supportive people behind the Free Software Foundation and stuff like that. It was so clever, And the moment they took the CentOS, I said they're gonna kill it. It's obvious.
Yeah, I've been saying that too. And
Yeah.
everybody complaining
But
about
Debian,
Red Hat killing CentOS.
who's gonna kill the Debian? Tell me. Who's gonna kill the Debian?
The only people that can kill Debian is Debian.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, there's too many
if there
forks of
is
Debian.
Armageddon, then we lose
Yeah,
Debian.
there's
I
too
mean,
many
the
forks of
Debian-
Debian already. I mean, it's
The
already.
Debian
yeah.
ecosystem and the Debian community will probably never die. The
Yeah,
Debian
I mean-
project, however, can. And that's what I'm concerned about.
I'm not talking
Now,
about the name. The Debian can be like Ubuntu in 10 years. Who knows? It can be Hamid distro. It can be DT distro. I'm not talking about the name. I'm talking about the code and the source is being being a Debian today. So it can be die as a Debian. It can be any other OS. But I don't see really Debian is dying forever. I don't see that moment coming anywhere.
Just quickly,
Once
I want to
packages
address.
stop coming, it's over. Really.
I want to address somebody in the chat was asking me, other than me typing clear, he says, also, please don't recommend any new user to do cat piped into grep. Now, there is a reason I sometimes cat something and then pipe into grep is because I cat it first to take a look at it. And if it's something lengthy, then I go back and grep, and it's just easier to up arrow and then tack on pipe grep, whatever it is you're searching for, instead of retyping the whole command, especially if you catted a lengthy file path.
Carrots.
I'm not going to go back and retype the whole thing. I'm just going to pipe it into grep. He also says
I
the
mean-
people that cat into grep probably also love to use Python for everything. I like Python. Peter, are you trashing Python?
I mean, you want to talk about something that's just familiar or just like in general. I'm the guy that actually uses carrots in my terminal.
I like carrots. And
Now, let's just say that I update my server. I have another server that runs Debian. It runs Debian stable. It's always ran Debian stable. When I go to update that server, I type in apt update, and then I caret update into upgrade. That is my force of habit.
Use full upgrade at once.
Well, yeah, you can do that too, but I hate myself, and I want things to break.
Yeah, I know. I do the same. I do the update, then
But
upgrade, then sometimes
now-
this upgrade, then sometimes full upgrade. I know what you're saying. I mean, that's a diversity I love. But having a YUM, DNF, and all these three together on
Well,
one
Yum
OS
doesn't even
makes no
exist
sense.
anymore.
Yep.
Yum doesn't exist. It's purely just an alias for those people that still want to use Yum
Yeah.
because they hate
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah. If it's not there, then it shouldn't be there. When you say type the YUM, it should return a bad
It's just
comment.
a bash alias, though. Now it's just
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah,
The
and
thing is that-
the majority of people, the majority of sysadmins that are typing Yum on a modern Fedora or CentOS system are actually kind of aware of that because there are these big, long, complex Yum scripts that do not work with DNF.
Still, there are differences when you use the YAML script with the DNF script. You
Yeah.
still have different kind
There
of.
are some differences, and they've ran into that copy paste issue.
Although it's the same things in the core, but still the YAML command is different than the DNF. So
yeah.
for me, it's two things.
Yeah, Peter in the chat was saying, all right, DT, you gave one legitimate reason to use cat pipe grip. Yeah, that's the only legitimate reason. I would never use it in a script. But when you're just doing something in the terminal and you already had something catted out, yeah, just tack it on at the end.
I think it's actually improves readability just a little bit because if you just use grep, the file name comes at the end. So I feel like I'm reading Japanese where I have to wait till the end to understand what it's talking about.
Right.
If I have cat in the file, I know, okay, we're starting here. This is the input. It's very, for readability, it's excellent. So like you said, like people freaking out over small things.
Well, people sometimes, I want to run some command, and I happen to know the command with awk because I use awk a little bit. And then, man, why didn't you use SID for that? Because the SID implementation of it is faster than the awk.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
what does it matter? I'm not writing it in a script. I'm just
What
typing
does
it
it
in the
matter? We're
terminal
using-
one time. If I was scripting something, then I'd worry about speed, right?
I mean, if we're talking about speed, we have to remember that most people that are actually smart are using these solid state disks with their high speed memory on their modern day x86 systems.
Right.
Does the performance in the command line really matter that much that you should be using sed instead of cat?
Well, I think a
or-
lot of these people are
awk instead of
thinking
all
you're
these other
you're
things.
eventually going to script it, and it's going to be a
Yeah.
slow script, is
We're-
what they're thinking.
We're not working with tape drives anymore, people.
But if I need something to be efficient, I'm not using bash in general, right? So
Right. You're going
I
to
mean,
use
I'm using
use
bash
Python if you're going to write a proper script, right, Peter?
I mean,
in the chat.
If I want to be efficient,
I'll use C or C.
No,
Probably C.
not for
actually.
scripting. Yeah, if you were going to write a proper program.
I use. I'm saying if we need to prioritize efficiency,
Yeah.
then I would use C. But if most of my scripting just Python. Yeah.
and if we want to prioritize efficiency, we don't even use C. We use stock assembly.
Yeah. If you want to really prioritize efficiency,
Just
you
code
should
just code
probably
everything
use-
in binary. There you go.
We are talking about the computer efficiency. We're talking about our efficiency, which is the Python.
You also need to think about the person writing it with their efficiency. I mean,
I mean, how many of us know the assembly here
no.
since the back in time?
I know a little bit, but I've never actually written.
So
I've
there's
never
not
released
much of the
software
people-
where I needed it.
There's not much of the people who knows what is the
Yeah.
COBOL or Fortran or assembly or
I know COBOL
assembly,
too.
assembler. Yeah, I know. I mean, unless you started from like me, I started the computer when I was 10 years old. Unless that, you are not really know about the turbo assembly or macro assembly or COBOL or Fortran. They are not even heard by people these days.
No,
So,
if you know some Fortran, you can make major bucks right now because there's so few people that.
yeah, I did, and I still do. I mean, when it's come to the Fortran, I'm the one of the people who get paid.
Yep.
So
I've
there's
even
not much people.
I've even tried teaching myself a little bit of B as well, but I can't find like a modern day use case for B. I can still find use cases.
I have tons of that.
Yeah, but the main reason why I taught myself assembly was because eventually I want to rewrite the complete operating system for this car that I have,
Yeah.
because there is no open source car operating system,
No.
and I'm slowly working myself that way because I want to hate myself in the future. That's why I've installed Linux from scratch, and I've taught myself assembly, and I know a little bit of C as well.
You know
I mean,
that
a little bit of
I'm doing that.
a bit of assembly is just good if you want to be a programmer and kind of want to know
Well, that too, because
what's going on under the hood.
the
I'm
big thing with
surprised-
like
I'm just surprised none of you guys on your programming resumes had Emacs Lisp listed as one of the things you want to study, because that's.
I mean, I used to know that.
Proficient with Git is probably on my resume.
That was the first thing I learned was how to use Git.
No, the list is there. I mean,
There are some programmers who are starting and don't know it yet. So.
Let me see.
I know
there's a
Linux.
list.
That's what
There's a list. So,
This is how I learned Git. The opensource.com cheat sheet.
I have used that cheat sheet too. I have one for Bash as well that I used in years past. I printed out a lot of those cheat
This
sheets.
is Git. This is Markdown. This is Linux Common Commands. This is SSH. I have the one for Vim, and I even have GIMP.
GIMP. Oh,
Yeah.
I might have to print that one out. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, they have one for GIMP. It's actually pretty cool.
Well, guys, we just got about 4 or 5 minutes here. So why don't we give everybody a minute to give us some closing thoughts here. So take a second to say whatever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Joshua, give us some closing words here.
Do we need a motivational speech again? Because I've given those past 4 times.
Yeah, if you want to.
Oh, okay.
Go
okay.
with what you're feeling.
So, I read this on it. This was a Reddit post the other day. This is just a framing for it. I went to go comment on it, but by the time I commented it, the user deleted it and made me sad. But work before thought.
I like
When
it.
you think about that, work before thought. You want to do things, get started on it. You want to work out, go to the gym and start working on it. Don't think about it, just go.
No. I tell people that ask me about getting started making YouTube videos all the time, just do it. As people put in all this thought ahead of time, what it is just make something. It's going to be bad. That doesn't matter. Just get started.
It's
Once you
going
get
to be
started,
garbage.
right? Right.
That's the approach I did, and now my channel sucks. So
All right. Thanks, Josh. Jean-Michel, give us some closing words here. You're muted. Pulse audio. See, did I mute him? Or
You can unmute him.
let's see if I can unmute him. Or he can unmute himself. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, okay. I have nothing special to say, but I just want, because it's the right moment, wish everyone a Happy New Year.
Absolutely.
And thank you, DT, for all the nice and helpful videos that you make.
Appreciate that.
So I hope everyone is going well into the new year, and I assume we see someone in January.
All right. Thank you, Jean-Michel. And Hamid.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, DT, for bringing so much information to the community by your videos.
I appreciate
wish
that.
everyone a happy new year. And wish me the best of luck. I have a new baby coming in 4 days in the first of 2021. So hopefully we deliver the new baby safe and sound. Thank you.
All right, man. Congratulations. All right, Big Bud.
Thank you for coming here. It was, and thanks DT for sending me that email so I could come. But I would like to point out about the Debian dying. How, in my opinion, Debian can die really easily if there is no packaging. There is no people packaging. Most of those forks will be left in the dark.
That's true. Yeah, they all use the
Most
same
people-
repositories. Yeah.
Look, I am Ubuntu Mate developer, part of the development team. I see how much we rely on external packaging. If that external packaging didn't exist, whether it be Debian, whether it be Canonical, if that disappears, only thing that we would be able to do is we would be able to have Mate desktop. That's the only thing we have power over when packaging. That's the only thing that would stay for us.
Absolutely. I would say the main reason so many people use, especially Debian and Arch, is because there's so many people packaging packages for Debian and Arch. If those people didn't exist.
And believe me, packaging everything and keeping it updated, that's
Absolutely.
a horrible and hard job. Just helping with packaging Mate desktop for Debian and Ubuntu.
Yep. I agree.
I'm really. That's a lot of work.
Yep.
I am since me and Martin Wimpress help out with Debian packaging a little bit for Mate desktop. Mostly him, but I'm trying to little bit.
Well, why don't we all go find a package maintainer today and thank them? Because
Of course, I agree.
I think I can do that too in the Arch mailing list. Because
Well,
there's
I thank everybody that I ever meet in person.
Yeah.
I go to a Linux conference. The first thing I do is I walk up to every single booth. I shake their hand. I thank them. And if they let me, I will hug them. You're talking to a person that gives Mozilla Firefox $20.
so that was you, the one that they were talking about going around hugging everybody weirdly. So,
Yes, I am that person. I will go and do that.
I just saw the cops carrying somebody out. I didn't know who it was.
I've not been carried out by cops yet, so that must not have been me.
All right, well, thank you, Big Pod, and let's get Magago. I don't know if he has his mic working. He may or may not have his mic hooked up, or he may be.
He just decided he doesn't have a working mic.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks for being here, though. And Kami.
Hi, I'm a Kami channel or whatever. That's my YouTube channel, but I'm Steven. And you might see me around on DT's Discord channel and here in the chat and stuff. And nothing special to say, just Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year.
All right, Happy New Year.
This is the only time of the month that I go out and I rant about computer stuff. So if you ever want to run into me being Windows Shield and loving the GNOME desktop environment as it is, just watch the DistroTube YouTube channel.
All right. And let's see, Tog. I don't know if Tog has a mic and camera or anything. If you have a working mic and you'd like to say something, feel free to give us a closing thought here, Tog. He may or may not be hooked up. If not, I'll give my final word here. I'll go ahead and give my final word, and if he jumps in, he can give his as well. I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me, and we've had some guys, also some patrons earlier that joined us on camera that have already left. I want to thank those guys for this too. These are always fun. We had a good time with this one. Just reflecting back on 2020, I know 2020 has been, probably a weird year for everybody.
I know I made them enemy there.
Yeah. But you know what? We made it through it just fine. I know people like to say it was just the worst year of their life or whatever. But you know what? No matter how bad it is, everything, it's going up, right? 2021 cannot be as bad as 2020. So look on the bright side, find the silver lining in every cloud. And I, for one, am looking forward to 2021. I hope you guys have a fantastic 2021. I wish each and every one of you guys Happy New Year. All the patrons that couldn't join us on the chat, I also want to wish them a Happy New Year, and all of you guys hanging out in the YouTube chat too. Thank you for your questions and comments. You guys make these exciting as well. And other than that, we will send this out. Before I go, I'm going to show some names on the screen here. Here's a list of the patrons. Some are here, some that are not. I want to thank all of those guys. And other than that, let's wave bye to the YouTube chat.
This is my favorite part of every single